empowerment skills are really necessary to prevent child sexual abuse. And those skills are making choices for parents that ensure that children are always protected, taking risks needed to prevent child sexual abuse, and supporting others in prevention measures. As a CASA, you may get a case where you have a mom who has a perpetrator in her home and is unable to choose her children over that perpetrator. Sadly, we see it happen. And there can be vicarious trauma that comes from that. And we offer vicarious trauma yearly for our volunteers. So hopefully as a team, we can work through all of that and how that affects everybody.
Before we begin the 5 steps to protecting our children, we need some straight talk about our personal empowerment. Child sexual abuse happens as a result of choices we make. We make choices every day, in families and in organizations that result in children being protected from sexual abuse or potentially exposed to it. If we want healthy, happy children, we have to make proactive choices that prepare and protect them. This training is about those choices. Almost every choice we make to prevent child sexual abuse or react to it involves taking some personal risks. Taking risks means we have to take actions we've never taken before, and we're not sure what all the outcomes will be. Like talking with our children about sexual boundaries, redirecting an adult who's crossing a child's boundaries, or making an actual report. These actions can feel like a risk. We may have some fear or uncertainty, but we have to take these actions to have safe, happy children and healthy communities. Many of us won't take the really big steps to protect children unless we know we'll have support. If we've learned nothing else, it's that people don't protect children because they're not sure if others will back them. Will I offend a coworker? How can I support my kids if I leave my partner? Will people ridicule the boundaries I have for my children? These are the kind of barriers people face. Support from others can help resolve these barriers. Supporting each other means giving support to others' efforts to prevent sexual abuse and asking for support when we need help. Making choices, taking risks, supporting each other. These empowerment skills make it possible to carry out the 5 steps to protecting our children.
So, why is willingness to take risks an important part of protecting children? I think there's a lot of fear, especially for parents. Moms, are they going to lose all their financial stability, everything they've known? I think admitting the fact that you are with someone who wants sex with children is very difficult for our parents. I think there's a lot of shame base that goes on. And how do we support those parents? Educating them, being positive. It can be really hard as a CASA to watch this and watch parents and mostly moms refuse to admit. And I think there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. And we'll talk more about that as we get into the training. But I think the 5 steps, those pillars, are learning the facts, minimizing opportunity, talking about it, recognizing the signs, and reacting responsibly. We've used this training for our parents. So if you ever get one that you believe needs this education, yell at me and we'll get you set up to be able to do that. It's important, okay? There's work here for parents to do as you work through stuff. Learning the facts about sexual abuse, being able to recognize the prevalence and understanding how it occurs. It helps us break through denial and fear with our moms. I think, do they even understand what sexual abuse is? Do they understand how often it happens and how it actually occurs? It's usually done by someone we know really well. And like this says, child sexual abuse thrives in an environment of denial and fear.
Step 1. Learn the facts.
I held a lot of resentment toward my mom for many years because I could not understand how she didn't know. I could not understand how you didn't know that this man was sneaking out of your bed and into mine.
My mother telling me that we were going to have a family member that was going to move with us to the United States because he needed to um, raise some money. He was trying to get his life together. And then I remember coming home from high school, and it was that cousin that had, raped me when I was a kid.
Nobody outside of the home should know what's going on inside the home. And it's a terrible, terrible belief. It goes so far, even to the extent that the perpetrator is often protected just so that it doesn't get out.
My mother walked down the hallway one night. He'd been in my room for maybe a half hour, and all of a sudden I heard footsteps coming down. I could hear the first step and then the second step, very, very, very slowly, and then the third step. And she was now about 12 feet from my door, and I waited to hear another step, and it was a dramatic moment when everything stopped for all three of us. All three of us knew exactly what each one of us was thinking and knew. It's the only time I ever felt my father afraid. He just stopped. And I thought, it's going to be over. She's going to come in. And we waited for that dramatic moment. And then I heard a step up the steps and up the steps and up the steps. And I knew she would never come through that door. And I knew she would never, ever come to help me. Maybe she just couldn't deal with it, so she just put it somewhere and wouldn't think about it. But I do believe she made a decision. I believe she made a choice. And she didn't choose me.
That's a hard one. Children grow up with that belief. Our parents didn't choose us, when you're sexually abused, when they know about it. And that can be really hard to do. So there's a lot of tools in here you can use when you work with your parents, which is really nice. We're not going to go through all of it. I just want you to see that you can use this, or we have a couple people on staff that we can have do this training. We could do a group training. There's a lot of stuff that we could do.
Child sexual abuse is any sexual act between an adult and a minor, or between two minors when one exerts power over the other.
So going into camping trips, I knew, I'm going to have a blast until nighttime comes. And then he's going to make me take my clothes off and lay in bed while he touches me.
She decided to make me touch her, and she, of course, me, and she ultimately wanted me to lick her. And so I had to do that, and I did that. And that was one of the worst memories I have. It was a memory that I tucked away for a very long time.
I remember being 16 years old and him pinning me against the wall. And he said something like, I'm going to show you what I should have showed you those years ago, and tried to do it again.
Child sexual abuse is forcing, coercing, or persuading a child to engage in any sexual act. Child sexual abuse is also non-contact acts such as exhibitionism, exposure to pornography, voyeurism, or communicating in a sexual manner by phone or internet.
There were many occasions that he tried to force himself onto me, make me watch pornographic videos and try to make me do the things that were in the videos.
Child sexual abuse is often a traumatic experience for children and teens.
She said, you said he pried you open. I said, I did say that, Mother, because they're writing that he abused me. And that's a very easy word to dismiss. If I say he pried me open, which he did, that's a visual that helps people to better understand what he did to me thousands of times over 13 years.
I think something that's really important to understand is if a child does disclose sexual abuse to you, don't ask questions. Don't make some horrific face that will shame them. Just listen. And if you need to, just say, tell me more, and let them talk. Then we will do a contact to the Department of Social Services, Child Protection, police, whatever we need to do, get them to the REACH program, to get an interview done. Do not ask questions. Do not ask them who did it. There's a very specific way that children are interviewed, and we don't want to put anything into their heads that could actually destroy the case. So be very careful when a child is disclosing to you. Let's go ahead and just take a little break here, and then we'll come back and do some more.